Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Recha Akwadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of 2 Chronicles, the 12th chapter, continuing in the reign of Rehoboam, right? And getting a bit of details, right, about what type of king Rehoboam was. And we know he didn't qualify as one of the righteous kings before the eyes of the Lord. Now, this is 2 Chronicles chapter 12, verse 1, and this is after the 11th chapter where they had intended, right, Rehoboam had gathered forces and intended to go and fight against the northern kingdom to retrieve, the kingdom back under himself, all right, but ultimately the Lord stopped them from doing that. So 2 Chronicles chapter 12, verse 1, and it came to pass when Rehoboam had established the kingdom and had strengthened himself, he forsook the law of the Lord Yahweh and all Israel with him. And that was a very common something that a lot of these kings whose hearts weren't fully towards the Lord, they had that in common, which was once they were out of a struggle or out of a hard time and they were established and comfortable, then they forsook the Lord, right? They saw no need they got too comfortable, careless, complacent, whatever the case is, and then their heart stopped following the Lord fully, if at all. Verse 2, and it came to pass that in the 5th year of King Rehoboam, Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem because they had transgressed against the Lord. So the Lord put the spirit in Shishak and gave him the ability to be able to come against Jerusalem as a punishment for them having transgressed against the Lord. With 1,200 chariots and 70,000 horsemen, that's 60,000, and the people were without number that came with him out of Egypt, the Lubims and the Sukims and the Ethiopians, right? So the various tribes over there of the Egyptians, which we know these are ultimately descendants of Ham, right, in the bigger picture. So anyway, he comes up with with them, and he took the fenced cities which pertained to Judah and came to Jerusalem. And now remember that we read in the previous chapter that Rehoboam had built these defense cities, and he had all these children and many wives, and he dispersed his children amongst the different defense cities, right, which he fortified. Well, in this case, the Egyptians came up there, and they did what they had to do. So they come here to Jerusalem. Then came Shemaiah the prophet to Rehoboam and to the princes of Judah that were gathered together to Jerusalem because of Shishak, and said unto them, so you can imagine they're probably afraid, but they're also strategizing, wondering, okay, how are we going to do this? What are we going to do here? So Shemaiah the prophet comes and he says to them, well, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, ye have forsaken me, and therefore have I also left you in the hand of Shishak. So this is a doing of me, and that's because you forsook my ways. So now you could deal with Shishak and you take your chances up against them. Whereupon the princes of Israel and the king humbled themselves, and they said, the Lord Yahweh is righteous. So they acknowledged that this was their fault in their doing, and as you can see, they humbled themselves and repented before the Lord. And when the Lord Yahweh saw that they humbled themselves, the word of the Lord came to Shemaiah, saying, they have humbled themselves, therefore I will not destroy them. Which highlights the mercy of the Lord, right? As the scriptures say, it's not joyous to the Lord that Israel should perish or that he should have to do this to them. But we know necessity comes, right, when you disobey and you're arrogant and proud, then you need to be corrected. So here, the Lord, seeing them humble themselves, he had mercy. He says, I will not destroy them, but I will grant them some deliverance, and my wrath shall not be poured out upon Jerusalem by the hand of Shishak. So instead of him coming and destroying this place, I'm gonna have some mercy to where that's not what's gonna happen. Nevertheless, they shall be his servants, that they may know my service and the service of the kingdoms of the countries. So I'm going to still have them be subject unto Shishak so they can learn the difference between serving me and serving them. And next time you'll see which is better, right? So when having been subject to the Egyptians and the levy and the tribute and all the whatever BS they come with, you'll learn that, damn, we were better off serving the Lord. We shouldn't have departed from the Lord. Verse 9, so Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem and took away the treasures of the house of the Lord Yahweh and the treasures of the king's house. He took all. He carried away also the shields of gold which Solomon had made. And we read about that in a couple of chapters back. Instead of which King Rehoboam made shields of brass. So since the ones of gold were taken away, he replaced them with ones of brass, and committed them to the hands of the chief of the guard that kept the entrance of the king's house. Because remember, you had bodyguards, right, to protect the king. And when the king entered into the house of the Lord Yahweh, the guard came and fetched them and brought them again into the guard chamber. And reading this in a NLT, it says, whenever the king went to the temple of the Lord, the guards would also take the shields and then return them to the guard room, right? So wherever he went, he was protected with it, right? NIV says, whenever the king went to the Lord's temple, the guards went with him, bearing the shields, and afterwards they returned them to the guard room. Verse 12, and when he humbled himself, the wrath of the Lord Yahweh turned from him, that he would not destroy him altogether, and also in Judah things went well. So the Lord had mercy, and things started going good again. So King Rehoboam strengthened himself in Jerusalem, meaning he established his reign, and reigned. For Rehoboam was 140 years old when he began to reign. And he reigned 17 years in Jerusalem. So that's about what? 41 to 51. So about 58. When he was like 58 years. That's the end of his reign, give or take. And the city which the Lord had chosen, or in Jerusalem, the city which the Lord had chosen out of all the tribes of Israel to put his name there. And his mother's name was Naamah, an Ammonitess. And he did evil, because he prepared not his heart to seek the Lord Yahweh. So the overall consensus or view of Rehoboam was that he wasn't one that sought the Lord with all his heart. Unlike some of the other kings, Hezekiah, King David, of course, and so on. Now the acts of Rehoboam, first and last, are they not written in the book of Shemaiah the prophet, and of Iddo the seer, concerning genealogies? And there were wars between Rehoboam and Jeroboam continually. And Rehoboam slept with his fathers, and was buried in the city of David, and Abijah his son reigned in his stead. And so, like I mentioned before, you can see it's pretty much the same story, but there's a bit more detail here going through it in the book of Chronicles as opposed to the book of Kings, right? So it's good to read them both, because you get, more pieces of the story or more pieces of the puzzle to get a bigger or clearer picture of what was taking place around this time. So anyway, with that, that brings us to the end of 2 Chronicles, the 12th chapter. Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.